Welcome to the Culture Shock Podcast on the Dynasty DNA Podcasting Network, where Big Culture Bob breaks down the 5 things that stood out this week in the NFL, the good, the bad, and the ugly of NFL and Dynasty Fantasy Football topics every week. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And here is your Culture Shock host, TJ Blake.
Welcome back, DNA Strand crew, to the newest episode of the Culture Shock here on the Dynasty DNA Podcasting Network. I'm your host, TJ Blake. You can follow me over on X at FFTJBlakeDNA. And as always, for the Culture Shock, we're joined by the man that originated the show. It's Big Culture Bob Helfert. You can follow him over on X at Big E Fat Bob. Bob, let's keep a good thing going. The fans seem to really like these shows. Top 5 wide receivers you could see outproducing ADP this season for 2026. I like the list you come up with. I think this is going to be good. You ready to rock today?
Yeah, like the crazy thing was I felt like I narrowed it down too quick. And I was like, just forget about it. Because I kept looking and I kept finding names. I'm like, I'd like to talk about that guy. I'd like to talk about that guy. But I'm like, let's just stick with some hot names.
All right. Don't threaten me with a good time because, these names I like. So let's just get into them right now, Bob. The first one that you have to bring up here today for the wide receiver show, who do you have on the docket?
Now, this is probably only for contenders. Like, my teams where I'm like, I'm either set with young wideouts or whatever. I'm not going to go out unless I'm like very competitive. I might go out and buy me some A.J. Brown. But I'm really only going to be doing this if I'm a competing team. But the fact that he's going as like wide receiver 22, I wrote down like where that is in position or whatever, but I wrote it on a different sheet of paper. So what, 60s, like what, 4th round, 5th round? So like legit, it's too much. Like he's clearly going to be the target hog. And when he's the target hog, he performs. Right. And they brought in Romeo Doubs, so that pulls a little pressure away. And then on top of that, they still got Hunter Henry and Drake May was throwing at near a 70% clip or whatever last year. It's not like this guy's not going to eat in this offense. He's back with, the head coach that drafted him to begin with. I shouldn't say he didn't draft him per se, but he was the head coach when he was there in Tennessee. And Vrabel was pissed when they traded him away, in Tennessee. So I think it's just the stars are quote unquote aligning for A.J. Brown to at least have a next 2 to maybe 3 good seasons as long as he can keep his head on straight. But I have no idea why this isn't going to work out. I mean, I think that he's going to get exactly what he wants. He's going to get flooded with targets. Dobbs is not going to, pull a lot of targets from him. And this team has built the offensive lineup pretty well. Their defense is still pretty good. Kept them in a lot of games last year. I just think that it's going to – I'll be surprised if it doesn't work out. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, I would be surprised as well, Bob. And, you talked about this. A.J. Brown functions his best when he is that number one guy. That's what he strives for, right? Like, we talk about the Shaq and Kobe type deal, right? Like, it just wasn't working in Philadelphia anymore. Like, A.J. Brown needs to be the center of attention, kind of like how Shaq had to go to a different destination, right? Back, use an NBA reference. But very similar thought with these wide receivers. Like, we know that they like to be in the limelight. And he's one of those guys, 29 years old, so he ain't like he's dirt, right? And like the way he plays, Bob, and you can correct me if I'm wrong whenever I turn it back over to you, but the way he plays is kind of Mike Evans-esque, right? Like I'm not saying he's Mike Evans, but he's that big body guy that can do a little bit of everything, though, and he's very good up in the air. And we know them type of receivers seem to have a little bit more of a lifespan, right? Because you can't teach height, right? You can't teach size and like craftiness. Like this guy's a crafty player. He's been around the block. And I could see him play until 32, 33, potentially at a strong level if he remains healthy. That's the big question mark. But coming to this team, as you said, Romeo Doubs is there. That isn't a threat to A.J. Brown. As you said, more of a help, right? Like, I mean, because Romeo Doubs is more of a legitimate underneath threat. Like that he's very good in the middle part of the field. Stuff that A.J. Brown really ain't inclined to do as much. He can do it, but it isn't like his favorite route tree to run, stuff in the middle field underneath. He's more of a down-the-field player, so that should help open up things up that way. We know Drake May, very mobile, right? That's going to pull the defense away at times, and if May keeps his eyes downfield, I mean, A.J. Brown is one of them guys that can absolutely sting people if he gets one-on-one opportunities or is in the open downfield. And you look at it, what'd you say, wide receiver 22 off the board? I mean, this guy at one time we considered in the top 10 in dynasty rankings for many dynasty rankings at wide receiver. So, this is the beauty of this show. It's finding the value, and you look at it, and I know you as well as I expect New England to maybe get a little bit of a stutter in their step, right? We don't see them just full-on charging like they did last year. Now, do I think they fall off the map? No, I don't. But they do play a number one schedule. And they're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. So I could see them, regressing a little bit, but not enough to where I'm like, there's no way that A.J. Brown ain't going to be a top 15 guy. I think it's almost a shoe-in. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 8 to 10, Bob, if it's somewhere in there. I kind of expect it to be honest with you, if the health's around. And then, look, this running game ain't no slouch either. Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson, we talked about this on From Whistle to Whistle. These guys, they can play. And if Stevenson holds on to the ball and Henderson gets a little more opportunity and hits some big plays, that's going to open up some things downfield as well. But I don't know, Bob. I mean, what's your thoughts? I think that A.J. Brown is a dynasty asset, right? We got to be careful with age. But as a dynasty asset, I think could be a little bit around a little longer than people think. I mean, that's just my thoughts on the way he plays.
Well, I think easily if you're playing the proverbial 3-year window, right, I think that this is a wide receiver you could still have for those 3 years and have pretty strong finishes, I think, for the next 3 years. Now, after that, it's still kind of up to A.J. Brown, right? And it all depends. And, to bring back, a basketball analogy for what you were talking about with his craftiness, he boxes people out. He knows how to get the ball, and make it to where he's the guy that can get it. Nobody else can. One of the trade calculators I looked at had it for a late 27 first. And I'm like, man, if I'm competing and I really feel like I need that edge, I'm not afraid. Most of the time I'm going to have multiple 27 first because that's just how I roll my teams, but if I'm the competitive guy, I'm probably not afraid to do that. I would prefer to try and push it out to 28, like I've said ad nauseum on these, airwaves here. If you can go back 1 year, try and go back 1 year, especially in this 27 class. But yeah, I'm not afraid to have him be my wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 on a competitive team. And like you were saying, 8 to, it wouldn't surprise me if he's anywhere between 8 and 12, 15 probably at the lowest. And I mean, we were talking about New England there. I think they're going to be a better team, but they're still going to lose. They're going to lose more games. They're just going to be playing better competition. But I think that all in all, I think the offense is probably improved. I think the defense is probably about the same. So yeah, I mean, of course we haven't done the, the division breakdown yet on the deep dive, but that's kind of where I'm at with this New England team.
For sure. And I'm with you on that. And let me just say, we talk about matches made in hell, potentially matches made in heaven. Drake May is not a check down guy, right? I mean, you look at it, he's near the top of the NFL in air yards per attempt. I mean, he is that guy that's going to look downfield. He might take some chances, and that's going to fit very well, hand in glove to A.J. Brown. And let me just be as bold enough to say, where you're getting him, like you're talking about in startup drafts, right? Or if you're looking to trade for him as a contending roster, he could turn into a league winner. He has that potential, right? And the cost isn't going to be a left kidney and a right kidney, right? I mean, you don't have to give up anything like that, all right? So maybe it will be okay if you go out and get A.J. Brown in that standpoint of, like you said, adding him as a wide receiver too. If you have a guy that's a true one, like a Chase on a contending roster, and you bring in A.J. Brown, that could be the move that puts you over the top. And I think it would be that move this year. The value's right, and I think it's really going to surprise a lot of people. I think it's a really good match. So, Bob, I'm on the same page with you on A.J. Brown. Keep beating that drum, and I will march to the beat. But let's go over now to the next player on your list, Big Culture. Lay it out for us. Who's number 2 we're going to be talking about here today?
Real quick, though, if you give up your left kidney and your right kidney, TJ, that's not good. That's not going to work unless you stole somebody's left kidney.
That's what I'm saying, Bob. I mean, if you do that, then you're done, right? So, like, your dynasty season's over too. So it's okay to go with one.
You're double dead.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So you give up one, you still got a chance to roll, right? A.J. Brown could still get you there. You don't want to give up the 2 for one of these guys, then you have a complete flop. So I'm with you. Stay on that thought.
I think this might be a guy, TJ, we consider giving up 2 kidneys for, and that's BTJ. Like, I know that he's a jacket holder and all these things. Like, I think that the age was there. Apparently something was aching him last year. When you come back and you're like, oh, it's nice to be able to run at full speed again. But that's a heck of a quote. You know what I mean? Like, come on. So something was bothering him last year that we didn't know about. He swallowed his pride. Maybe in the back of his mind, he's like, oh, they traded, to get Travis Hunter. I don't want that guy to outshine me. He's a cornerback. He shouldn't even be on field. Blah, 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 whatever the case may be. I don't know what the case is there, but I think that now they've got this full complement of weaponry. Having Jacoby Myers take up more of like the middle short range. Of course, you got little Parker Washington just getting, peppered with targets at the end of last year. I just think BTJ's more of a hog there. And here's my thing with BTJ. Like, if it doesn't work out, he's going to work out somewhere because the talent doesn't just show up like that and completely go away. Ironically, we brought Tashara and I were having a phone call, and we brought up the name Sammy Watkins, and I'm like, that only showed up 1 game a year. Like, it wasn't necessarily like one season. It was like 1 game a year. It was so wonky, but like Brian Thomas Jr. did it for a whole year and absolutely dominated as a rookie. He's going at wide receiver 24, 2 spots behind A.J. Brown. Blows my mind. I could see him finishing 12 to 15 easily. I don't expect that 4 again just because they brought too many weapons in. I mean, at another position with less competition, potentially. But I just think with the way this team has constructed itself in Brian Thomas Jr.'s injury, absence, that I think that they're going to try and spread the ball around a little bit more. I'm trying to recall, like, has Trevor Lawrence ever been like a zero in on one guy QB? I mean, I don't really believe so. There's really never been this kind of talent there until they drafted Brian Thomas Jr. So I'm at a loss for off the top of my head, just trying to think about who his wide receivers were in the past. But even still, he's kind of unlocked. Right last year he kind of got Trevor Lawrence kind of matured. So we're hoping that it all works out. I'm not so sure that it works out like we talked about just the other day on the deep dive. I think it could be a lot of hollow points, but as far as the wide receiver goes, who cares? It's points is points. He's going in the 5th round as well. So it's like, that's nuts to me.
For sure. And, I love the A.J. Brown shout out. And like, just to pivot off that, right? We said that's more for contending rosters. Like, that kind of builds more for contending rosters. Like Brian Thomas, this builds for anybody. Like, the price is down, and you look at it, I'm like you, Bob, like the Travis Hunter stuff, I've never, you and I have always been on the same page. And Jacoby Myers, right, and Parker Washington are going to be nice little niches in this offense. But the key phrase that you said was, if it doesn't work out in Jacksonville, it's going to work out somewhere, right? Like, the wide receiver 4, I say it all the time, that's a tough act to follow. I knew he was going to fall off in 2025. I didn't expect it to be quite that catastrophic, but as you said, he said he was dealing with an injury. I take him for his word on that. And if he wasn't dealing with an injury, the guy proved it. Like, he can play with the right quarterback. He can be a dominant force. Like, he's got the size, he's got the speed and the ability to be a dominant force in this league. And that's what we're looking for. Players with high upside. And, you talk about, like, all this pre-draft buzz, like when we're talking rookie classes, right? Like, what was all the pre-draft buzz on, like, Anthony Richardson, right? All of this size, the athleticism, this and that. Like, and he never proved it. Brian Thomas Jr. has proved it. Like, he's shown us that he can be that guy. The proof's in the pudding. Like, there isn't a question mark on this. And I think that's what frustrates me the most, like, with all the Brian Thomas Jr. hate. Like, guys, I mean, he showed us what he can be in this league. Now, it might not be with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but if you go out and acquire him for like a late 27 first and another minor piece or something middle of the road, this is the kind of move that could really build your receiver core up long term, right? This is a good, solid dynasty move any way you look at it across the board. And, you know, Bashaw Tutin's going to be a big part of this, right? Is he going to be able to, you know, get some teams to back off, right, and be able to make them respect the running game? Chris Rodriguez, Bashaw Tutin, however they're going to approach that running game, they're going to have to be able to get some of these teams to back off and play these receivers a little bit loose. And you look at it, if he was really hurt, this could be the value of all values, Bob. And I think from a dynasty standpoint, it could be the best value at wide receiver from a dynasty standpoint. Do you agree with that statement? Like, I know there's some other guys out there. Justin Jefferson's probably right there right now, just considering how low he finally is, what he used to fetch compared to where he is now. But I say them two in the top of my head for as far as looking for elite wide receiver play at a value. Them two are probably the best in my mind. Do you agree with that, Bob?
Yeah, I think that you're not wrong. I actually thought about putting Jefferson on this list because I think that he's due for a big bounce back. I mean, you just don't finish where Jefferson had finished, and you don't lose that talent. It's not the talent, obviously. It's J.J. McCarthy and, you know, whatever happened there. So enough about Jefferson, but I really do think both of these players are due big bounce backs. And I'm hopeful for Brian Thomas Jr. But again, like you said, we absolutely seen it. It was lights out the first year. And, like, you just don't lose that talent. I mean, like, you can kind of get figured out, but, like, what he was doing wasn't, like, solvable, right? It's like, okay, sure, we know you're a dominant player. It's not like, oh, you're going to lose that dominance. You know what I mean? It's not like he just knew how to. It's not like Michael Thomas Jr. with Slant King. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was just doing the same thing over and over again and just being super successful at it. He was dominating the game, and, you know, a fourth overall finish as a rookie is crazy. You know, but I digress. And again, he was so close to A.J. Brown or whatever in rankings that basically the 27 late first again is kind of the target draft capital you'd have to pay for it. And I don't think that I would be happy to almost send off a mid first. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to do a mid first for Brian Thomas Jr. because I just honestly think that he's got lots of time left in this league. And if that's the case, like, I'm hoping for a Brian Thomas Jr. with my 27 first anyway.
Here's the trade right here, Bob, and I know you'll like this. A 27 first and like a Denzel Boston or a Casey Concepcion for Brian Thomas and a 27 second, right? Like, I think that would be a highway robbery type of trade for somebody, and that's the kind of move I would make, no doubt about it. And like you said, you can't teach two things, size and speed, and that guy's got them both. And at some point, it's going to shine through again, and whoever has him rostered, I think, will be very, very happy. Just be patient. The key word in a lot of dynasty leagues, Bob, and you know this better than anybody, is patience, right? You can't get too fed up, and seeing is believing. We've seen it. It'll happen again. It might not be in 2026, but I think we'll see it a lot more than the people expect right now. Let's go over now to the number 3 wide receiver that you want to talk about outperforming ADP in 2026, Bob. You know, I like some of these names. Go ahead and give us the next one.
Yeah, Michael Pittman. I knew that the top half of this list was going to be, you know, at least a TJ special. But, like, I just don't understand. I mean, unless his back is absolutely wrecked, right? Like, I know he had some back issues or whatever last year, but unless his back is absolutely wrecked, Michael Pittman is a stud wide receiver. And I know he's a TJ jacket wearer, yay! But, like, legitimately, he goes to a team that is starved for that type of possession receiver. You know, DK Metcalf is an all-world athlete. There's no doubt about it. But he's not a crisp route runner. Let's just put it that way. And that's what Pittman does. He gets open. And I think it's going to work ridiculously well with Aaron Rodgers or whatever this year. Now remains to be seen who the QB is that they bring in next year. I'm not hopeful for Aller or Howard, but this isn't a QB show. They're going to find somebody, and I hope it's Mac Jones. But let's not talk about that anymore. So I feel like we're trying to speak it into existence, TJ. I just think that Pittman he's due probably at least 120 targets on this team. I can't imagine anything else. I know they're going to try and run the ball super effectively, obviously with Rico Dowdle and Warren, but I can't see Aaron Rodgers just sitting there and not wanting to chuck the ball. So Pittman should be the main beneficiary of that. And I just think that, he's going at wide receiver 46. Like, I could see it easily outperforming that. Easily. I mean, even if he's a bargain basement wide receiver 3, that's 10 spots better. How are you not? You're profiting handedly by getting Pittman. Oh, it's crazy.
Let me just say this. You said it all too well. Wide receiver 46 is what he's going for right now. How about this, Bob? Other than one season when he was injured in 2020, he's outperformed that every single time. And with ease for the most part, right? I mean, we're talking wide receiver 17, 20, 13, 18. Like, he's been that consistent rock wide receiver.
And TJ, hold on one second. Think about this. Who were the quarterbacks throwing him the ball?
Yeah.
We're not talking about Aaron Rodgers. Even 4,500-year-old Aaron Rodgers is better than some of the garbage the Colts have thrown out there.
That's a very good, valid point, Bob, and you're right, because, I mean, we're talking about geriatric people throwing the ball that wasn't near as good as geriatric Aaron Rodgers, right? I mean, that's just the truth. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to love Michael Pittman, and you look at it, right? Let's look at some of the pros. As I said, he's outperformed that number pretty much all the time, and, this is why he's a jacket holder, right? I love guys that always prove people wrong. Jacoby Myers, Michael Pittman, like, they're just the constant, right? Like, they just get it done. And they're just players that if you have them on your fantasy team on contending rosters, right, you don't want them to be your star. But they are guys that you have that you're like, man, isn't it nice that I could just get 16 points out of Michael Pittman, right? Like, you just know it. You feel good about that. And you look at the benefits of joining the Steelers. DK Metcalf is there. He's going to draw the top corner on every team. So that you got Michael Pittman, who is accustomed to being the Colts' number one guy, has proved that he's pretty much done well in that role. Now he's going to not see the number one corner. You're talking about a possession receiver, which Aaron Rodgers needs desperately on this team. Slants, curls, digs, and he's still a big dude that wins contested catches. And we've talked about this Steelers offense, Bob. They're going to be in the red zone a lot more this year. They just are. I just think it's going to be better. Mike McCarthy ain't rolling out this same old 2004 Steelers offense that everyone knew was coming, right? Like, this is innovative stuff, and it's going to help this team. And you look at it, I'm like you. I don't expect them to win the Super Bowl. You know how I am. I'm the realist here. But I do expect this offense to be better, and I will invest in some of these fantasy pieces finally, right? I'm not going to get carried away, but I just look at Michael Pittman as wide receiver 46. I can almost bet everything I own he'll easily outperform that, right? I think that he'll be, at worst, wide receiver 30, probably at best, wide receiver 19 to 20. I think he'll be right in there, and it wouldn't shock me if him and Metcalf both finished as wide receiver 2s. I think it's possible with the touchdown ability and just the possession-type throws that Aaron Rodgers are going to be looking for him, and I think that Pittman is going to be a beneficiary of that. You look at, like, Freiermuth and Washington. I mean, I think they'll do okay, but I think they might struggle a little bit more to produce at times because you got to feed two really good wide receivers who probably are going to be open a lot more than they were last year, Bob. So I like the Michael Pittman shout-out. And what could you acquire him for, Bob? Do you have any trades handy there? I mean, I would say a second and maybe a lesser player or something you could get Michael Pittman for. I don't know if you researched that or not.
All I did was look and see where, what pick values were close to the player on the chart, and you could got him for the 201 this year.
Oh,
Like, are you kidding me? And it's like a mid 27 second. Like either option would be fine with me. And again, I'll be tickled pink to push back for a 28. But like you were saying, like you don't want to overly invest in this team, but you don't have to overly invest. This is a cheap wide receiver one, in my opinion. Now, maybe not wide receiver one finish, wide receiver one on the team. I think that's where he finishes, in all honesty.
I wouldn't be shocked either because, as we talked, I think Metcalf's going to draw a lot of the attention, and Pittman's that good that he's going to get a lot of looks. So I like what you're saying, Big Culture. Oh, look at this. I got to do this real quick. I mean, we got some real players on here that I like. I mean, Bob, you and I are always on the same page a lot. I will say that, a lot of the similar philosophy, but I do think a lot of these guys are going to be looking good. And there's another name coming up that I'd like. Go ahead and bring it up, and we'll talk about it right now.
So at wide receiver 55 rolls in Jayden Reed. The only thing I'm worried about with Reed is he going to be on the field in two wide receiver sets? Because I think that they tend to run that often enough where I would be concerned about that. But in all honesty, at wide receiver 55, 136 or whatever. So that's like, 4, 8, 9, 10, like the 11th round. Like you're talking about a very cheap acquisition just to see what happens. And again, they paid the guy money. It's hard to pay somebody money and at least not feature him in the offense. Matthew Golden, I mean, like I've seen hype videos on Matthew Golden, but like, are we sure? And like, I think Matthew Golden ends up being more Christian Watson insurance than he ends up being like a target hog or whatever on this team, or the wide receiver too. But even if it is, it's such a cheap acquisition that I really didn't care. I'm like, I kind of want to at least throw a dart at the Green Bay offense. And Watson's just too expensive. He's not that much more expensive. I didn't look it up, but I know he was higher up the chart. And Golden was a little bit higher than this. And I actually had Golden before I went to Reed, but because he was just that smidge higher, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead and shoot for Jayden Reed. It's just, we've seen him be pretty good. You know what I mean? Health is very much a key, obviously, but that's what happens when you get down to this point. And I just think that this offense is kind of ready to explode if they can just put it all together and stay healthy. I like Jordan Love enough. I think that they consolidated their targets quite a bit this offseason to it should just work out.
I think so, Bob. And look, I'm a big Matthew Golden proponent as like the dice roll, right? Because it is the unknown, right? And I like the film of Matthew Golden, but you're right. And you look at Jayden Reed. I've always liked Jayden Reed. I think a lot of people have looked at him like as just like this injury-plagued, like, underachieving type of guy. But you go back to, his rookie and sophomore campaigns. I mean, wide receiver 25, wide receiver 29, like, this guy's high-end wide receiver 3, creeping up towards that back-end wide receiver 2. And, you got to think. I mean, the age is still on his side, 26 years old. I know he only played 7 games last year. But, I mean, the 2 seasons before, he only missed 1 game out of 2 seasons. So let's cut the guy a little bit of a slack here. And, Christian Watson, I get it. I mean, I think a lot of people are looking at the contract thinking like, if I'm going to get a receiver from Green Bay, it's probably going to have to be Christian Watson, and at times he does look like the best receiver there. But like when he's not catching the big ball, right, when he's not getting loose downfield, it isn't so great, even when he's available and playing, right? Jayden Reed's a little bit more of that Swiss Army knife type player, and I think that I'm going to go with what Teixeira said here. He knows this Green Bay team very well, and I think that they would be good to maybe take this advice. Let Jordan Love cook a little bit, right? Like it's almost like they have him on a leash. And I think Jordan Love's a lot better than what people are giving him credit for. I'm not saying abandon the run totally because this is the NFC North. I still think they got to go with a heavy dose of running. But when you need a play, let Jordan Love cook, right? Let him try to do something here. I think that they're going to have to let him off the leash. But I look at Jayden Reed as, you're getting him in the 50s. And again, seeing's believing, right? I mean, we've seen it in the past. This guy almost finishes a back-end wide receiver 2 twice. And he's 26 years old. This is the kind of guy, though, Bob, and I'm sure you agree with me, Like, you get him as a throw-in a trade, like, and I feel really good about it. I mean, like, I don't know what it is, but, like, this, especially for, like, rebuilders or something, like, you know, you're working on a big trade and you're trading a big piece, right, and you're getting all kinds of 27 draft capital. Then you say, well, hey, can you throw in Jayden Reed, right? Like, just throw him in there. And, like, if he has this wide receiver 28, 27 finish, I mean, you're going to be able to get maybe a high-end second for him, or maybe even a little bit better in a trade for more draft capital. So do you agree with that, Bob? I think this guy, for rebuilders, you know, and for contenders, as far as, like, you know, a sneaky buy for cheap, I think it's a good move either way. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with as far as contenders go, it's going to be a great flex and or bye week fill in. You know what I mean? You're like you said, if he can finish as a wide receiver too, and you're getting him in, like, what is that, wide receiver? You're getting him well past wide receiver 4 prices. Like, sure, like, why not? And then again, like, when you're talking about just getting him as a throw in a deal, if you're, you know, say you're shipping off Mike Evans or whatever because he's old or whatever, you're like, hey, you give me that 27-second, man, just throw in Jayden Reed, you know, and if as long as the guy will take it, you know, whatever. And I just picked Mike Evans out of the air, so don't hear what I'm not saying. I didn't check the value, but I'm just saying, getting rid of an old guy for a pick and a younger player. And in all honesty, I didn't realize he was 26. It almost makes it better. You know what I mean? It's like he's obviously came into the league pretty young, and he's shown pretty well as long as he's healthy.
Absolutely. And I think he's that kind of guy, like, as long as he's healthy, I think he'd be a very effective slot receiver for many teams. And again, if he moves on from Green Bay, maybe he blows up. Maybe Green Bay just ain't that fit for him, right? Like, he has a lot of high-end athleticism. When we watched the tape of Jayden Reed, I really liked what I seen. You know, and a lot of people had him going, I think, in the 4th, 5th round when he was a rookie. He ended up going high there in the 2nd round to Green Bay, and I was not surprised by that, right? Because they seen what I seen, and I think that if they let Jordan Love do a little bit of more than what they're accustomed to doing, right? When they need him to put on the cape, you got to let him try, right? Like, I mean, hey, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, let the guy play and see what you have, because you got to make sure, too, that this is your guy long-term in Jordan Love. So I like Jayden Reed for the value, Bob. That's a very good one, very sneaky. And as long as he's healthy, another one that I could almost bet will outperform set ADP where he's at right now. All right, Bob, next one here on the list. Who are we going with here for outproducing ADP at wide receiver in 2026 next?
All right, so I buttered you up to kind of put a plunger right in your face here. You're going to absolutely despise this, but I'm listening to some podcasts the other day, and I'm listening to a guy. He's talking about, man, he goes, this wide receiver coach is absolutely bringing these guys up. He's like, the whole team is feeling more accountable, you know. And I'm like, man, this. It sounds like things are starting to click for some of these guys that really didn't respond like we'd expect them to, at least with the draft capital they were drafted with and things like that. I'm like, okay. And then the guy's talking about, like, really, there's this target vacuum and so on and so forth. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, man, TJ's going to hate this name, but I got to bring it up. So I'm like, there's things that are just working in this guy's favor. Number one, he's clearly the number 2 target on his team. If not, he could be the number 1. He's electric athletically. Number 3, he was injured last year. That was kind of like the BTJ injury. He was kind of out there, but they were talking about how he was hurt. Here's the dirty name, TJ: Xavier Worthy.
Oh, Bob, you had it going so good, but I'll let you go ahead. Go ahead.
Now that all the pluses are why I even bring it up. And the cost. He's only slightly more expensive than Jayden Reed. So you're talking about wide receiver 52. If all he does, I will absolutely go to bat for the whole thought process of, this dude's more than likely much better of a best ball wide receiver. I don't want to count on this guy. But I also think that at the cost, with Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball, I'm not afraid to see what happens, especially in a startup when you're talking about 129. You're talking about that is a very late pick to just get a dart throw in a Patrick Mahomes offense. Now, I'm not expecting this to blow up, so don't put too many words in my mouth. This is just like one of these. I almost wanted to save it for the long shot that I have on the list, but like I just think that this guy's he had a ton of draft pedigree. We talked about it before. Patrick Mahomes likes to throw the ball deep. If Xavier Worthy can get the ball deep, go deep and get open, I think he's that player on this team. If Rashid Rice bungles himself out of this freaking offense, who else are they going to throw the ball to? The decrepit, Travis Kelce. And it's like, Jaden Royals? Is anybody excited about that? Like the same guy was talking, they were talking about Chad O'Shea's the new wide receiver coach. And they were talking about, you can hear Chad O'Shea from like 15 rows up on the field. He's like yelling at these guys. He's expecting perfection, blah, blah, blah. And, in all honesty, I think Xavier Worthy had it easy. He probably was the best player on the field wherever he was the whole time because he's electric. He can get open, blah, blah, blah. Are we excited about the tape? No, we weren't, because really I think he's just a field stretcher plus. But I also think if the guy can mature and he can get open, he's still got arguably the best quarterback in the game throwing him the ball.
Right, and here's the thing, Bob, right? I mean, you know how I feel about certain players. Like, I don't know, I guess like the way I approach things from a dynasty standpoint is of like when he was going for way more than he should have been going for, I was very tough on Xavier Worthy, right? Because like I just knew, I'm like, you're crazy for wanting to spend what people were spending on this guy. People were drafting him over Brock Bowers and Brian Thomas Jr. Big mistake, right? Like, I mean, I remember saying like I would take them guys 10 times out of 10 over Xavier Worthy. Now, I will give you credit for the simple fact of like, if you're going to take a chance on somebody, you laid it out pretty well, right? I mean, I'm not going to overpay for him, depending on what the price is, right? I mean, you want to gamble as a throw-in player or something, I have no issues. That's the key, guys. And I say this all the time, dynasty values, right? Like, I'm not overpaying for the players I know I shouldn't be overpaying for. When they come down in price, maybe I'll take a swing at somebody, right? I mean, it won't be so hard on them. 23 years old, I'll throw some more favorables your way. Still a very young guy, right? I mean, coming to the league super young. He is in that Patrick Mahomes offense. We'll see what happens with Rashid Rice, as you said. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, if Rashid Rice bungles this up, as you said, and like I don't know what's going to happen with his entire situation. I mean, he's clearly the most talented pass catcher there by a long mile, but whenever you're an idiot, it really don't matter. And, I'm like you. I'm kind of fed up with the antics. I believe in the talent, but I don't believe in all the other crap that's going on. So from that standpoint, right, Bob, I'm not going to crucify you for that. For that standpoint, I will say, right, I mean, it's all about playing values. The values come down enough if you want to take a chance. It isn't going to catastrophically alter your dynasty roster, right? Like, I mean, that's just the way it is. And, hey, if he does have one good season, and I know you'll agree with me on this, I'm selling right away. Sell high again, because then the hype machine builds back up, right? And then you take advantage of that hype machine. And then when he finishes wide receiver 40-some again, it's somebody else's problem, and you got some good draft capital. So, no, I don't mind that at all, Bob. See, you're kind of surprised by that, right? You're kind of surprised by that answer. I wouldn't have given you the buzzer on whistle to whistle, right? I wouldn't have been that harsh. But, all right, I don't mind it for the price, right? As far as, like, startups especially, right? Maybe I'm not specifically trading for Worthy, but in a startup, when you're throwing those darts, I mean, hey, the value has come down enough. The ADP's come down enough. Maybe, just maybe, like you said, there's a lot of athleticism there. Maybe he can do a little bit better and take off and run with it. We'll see. No pun intended. But let's go over now to the last name here, Bob, that you want to talk about before we get into some long shot options. What do you have for us?
I have three names here as honorable mentions, and I'll just rapid fire them. Romeo Dobbs is going at 133. Jalen Coker's going at 138, and our boy Jalen McMillan at 150. Like, of those three, I would aim for McMillan first. I think Dobbs may have the better year of the three guys, but I also think that right now Bryce Young really likes Coker, so that's kind of and he signs an extension or whatever. So all three of these guys are going to have roles in their offense, and I think McMillan could sneakily be really good on his second team. You know what I mean? I think that's something I want to look at. And again, just go back to the Jayden Reed example. I would do the same thing with Worthy. Like if I'm doing a deal and the guy's got somebody, hey, like you just throw in Xavier Worthy or whatever, because at that point, like you said, if he plays well, then we can flip him for something better later on. And the same thing I think applies to me with Dobbs and Coker. I think I would probably hold on to McMillan because maybe it's a man crush. I don't know. But I just think I think he's electric. I think he was the best player coming out of Washington that year or those 2 years. And it is what it is there. But for where you're getting these guys so late, I mean, I hope this isn't heard by any of the people I'm in this draft with, but like I just started a startup or whatever, and I was legitimately like, man, do I start this draft out with 2 wide receivers when I'm looking at all these guys that I'd be happy to take in the 13th, 14th, 15th round? I'm like, yeah, but I still took 2 wide receivers first. I took JSN and Justin Jefferson from the 8th spot, just to FYI. So, but legitimately, I think all 3 of these guys are going to be heavy contributors to their offenses this year.
Agreed. And I like the whole list as a whole, Bob. And, I ain't going to hear no arguments from me. And, you look at it, right? Carolina gave a little bit of insurance and confidence with Jalen Coker. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, I know that that was a name you brought up. I know Jalen McMillan, you know how many times I've said that name, how I feel about that guy. And, just to put more emphasis on this, right, I know you said about Chris Bell potentially from Miami, right? That's a name. Malik Washington's a name that I've said. Like, I mean, you look at some of these guys, like where they're going super down there, right? Like, do I expect a lot out of the Miami offense? No, I do not. But at the same token, somebody's got to catch the ball there, right? I mean, there's going to be opportunity just based off on that alone. If Malik Washington finishes as wide receiver 29, that's a heck of a feather in your cap, right? So just use that in the back of your mind, guys. And you're picking late on some of these players, look for opportunity. And I know Big Culture Bob might not like this one, but Jalen Naylor, right, with the Vegas Raiders, right? That's another one that I've been getting later. Do I have great expectations? Not really. But at the same token, there is opportunity there, and that's what we talked about. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, Big Culture, great show. As always, we loved it. We got one more to do, and it's going to be 5 quarterbacks that will outperform ADP. I can't wait to pick your brain on that. And let me just say, guys, Fantasy Football Expo coming up at the end of July. Big Culture Bob, myself, Ty, Teixeira, we'll all be there. Stop and say hello. We'd love to chat with you. If you want to check out the podcast on all podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Pod, Stitcher, Amazon, and you haven't yet, please follow and 5-star the show if you're tuning in with us and enjoying the content. That really helps. We so appreciate it. You want to check out Dynasty DNA on YouTube, subscribe over here to Dynasty DNA on YouTube. We'd love to have you over there as well. Check out the website, DNASportsNetwork.com, and follow us on X at DynastyDNA_. Bob, you got one thing to say before we close out the show?
Well, I was just going to say follow us on TikTok. I think you missed that one. I was like, oh, hey, don't forget TikTok.
That's right. Dynasty DNA on TikTok. Check us out, guys. We'd love to have you over there. Good call out, Big Culture Bob. Keeping me in line yet again. But listen, I know I speak for Big Culture Bob. Everyone here at the Dynasty DNA Network when we say, have a great Monday. And we'll see you all on the next episode of The Culture Shock.